Item 4.1, receipt of the Lake Taupō Protection Project Joint Committee meeting minutes that were held in March 2021. Any clarification of those minutes? No. Could I have a mover, please, for those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 4.2 is consideration of the recommendation from the Lake Taupō Protection Project Hearings Committee. And there it is up on the screen there. Any changes to that or any clarification of that? No? Could I have a mover, please, that they be accepted? Councillor Park.
Worship, I just thought, as we've mentioned to our colleagues, it was a pleasure to sit in a co-governance situation with Waikato Regional Council to hear the submissions and go through the deliberations on this very important project for Taupō and our Great Lake. I'd just like to say that although the cost to the Taupō ratepayer would be slightly higher than it has been before, we are definitely keen on protecting our crown, the jewel in our crown, and we managed to compromise with the Waikato Regional Council to have the review pushed out to 24 months instead of the 12 months that they were keen on. So it was a very good compromise and an interesting co-governance decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Park. Any other comments? You happy to move the consideration? Councillor Williamson.
I just sat in just out of interest. I wasn't involved in the actual deliberations, but I just with the 24 months' time to consider, it was negotiated very well at the meeting, and I think anyway the review under the monument deed is done every 6 years anyway. Would have been in 2024 anyway. It's from 2018, so it's within. It was a year earlier than there would have been reviewing under the statute anyway.
Thank you, Councillor. That's correct, and thank you, Councillor Mack, also, and Councillor Park, those comments for being on that, hearing those deliberations. So, thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Williamson, Councillor Leonard.
Just to make note that it still has to be approved by the Minister.
Yes.
Before, yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Moved by Councillor Park, I think, seconded by Councillor Mack. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 4.3, a waiver of development contribution with Tūwhare Toa Health Charitable Trust. Good afternoon, Scott.
Kia ora, councillors and Mayor. So what I thought, it's up to you whether you want to go through the agenda item first and answer some questions, or whether you want to invite the members from Tūwhare Toa Health Charitable Trust up first.
I'll invite the members up if you like, okay. Scott, and we can do it in conjunction if you like. Who have we got? I was seeing. No, one of them, Mr. Ian Farquhar. Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
Kia ora, Kia ora tātou.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's nice of you to give us this opportunity.
No problems at all. The item is in front of us. Scott, did you have any leading comments? Sorry, and
oh, this is Suzanne.
I'm Suzanne Gower. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Tūwhare Toa.
Oh, nice to have you, Suzanne. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Scott.
Just a quick lead-in, I'll take the item as read, but as per our previous discussions, the DC policy, I'm speaking now because I'm away from the microphone, the DC policy is looking to have quite a significant change as of 1 July 2021, and the fact that we won't be collecting DCs from commercial premises that haven't had a subdivision or a high user of water or wastewater. So if this application that's sitting before us had come in for a building consent for the fit out after 1 July, then they wouldn't be assessed for development contributions. We'd just accept the fact that those fit outs, those minor changes that come and go within the commercial environment will be covered mainly by the population increase from the residential DCs. There are some other contributing factors here that were spoken about in terms of the charitable work that Tūwhare Toa Health Charitable Trust do, and the bringing together of several health organisations and the benefit that has, and there's also provides some efficiencies in terms of the services that we deliver, such as water, wastewater, roading, those kind of things. So I won't go into that much more because there might just be some questions to the Trust in terms of their activities and in particular those other parties that are involved with them in this new fit out at Taupō District.
Sure. Thank you. Scott, any questions at this stage? The item is very well put together, quite explanatory. I don't know if you've got anything to add to it, Ian, at all. Obviously, you've changed location, so congratulations for that, and brought it into the 2021. So, well done. It's a great location to have, and so the floor is yours. If you wanted to mention anything, Ian or
Yes,
Suzanne.
The submission that's been advanced in your agenda is bang on. We couldn't have put it much better if we'd drafted it ourselves, and Scotty summed it up as well. Tūwharetua Health was set up by Sir Hepi Te some time ago, many years ago, and it was designed to assist with the health and welfare of anyone in the rohe. So it's not Māori just, it's anyone in the rohe. Māori, Pākehā, tangata whenua, or visitors, it doesn't matter. We're there for everyone, we're there to help everyone. So we're a charitable trust, we don't make a profit. Any surpluses go into reserves or are put back into services for the community. So this is a huge expense for us to go ahead with this project. And we're dependent on our surpluses, our reserves, and some charitable donations from other organisations. So there's going to be no money made out of this ultimately. It's for the benefit of the community, and anything that can take the pressure off that is much appreciated. Ultimately, we want to amalgamate all the health services of our ilk in this one centre, and that's what our primary aim here is to do. So, particularly certain members of the community, there's a very high threshold for them to engage with health services, especially Māori in particular, I suppose. So this helps lower the threshold for their engagement, this centre, so that they come to one place, all the services are there, or most of the services are there, they know the people, they engage readily, they're more likely to come back, they're more likely to come early, and more likely to seek the help and services we can provide, or we can put them in the direction that they need to go. So anything that will help us advance that cause is much appreciated, and obviously this is a significant amount of money that we're seeking to be waived today, and that would take a huge burden off our back, because I'm not sure whether you've seen the figure of the fit out, but it's not insignificant, and we're working hard to complete that. So I thank you very much for your attention and consideration of this, and I totally support the submission as it has been presented to the council today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Kingi.
Not so much a question, Your Worship, but really just a comment, just to thank the Trust for the mahi that you do in the district. And whilst this proposal was talking about the facility up here, as a proud Turangi resident, I acknowledge the work that the Health Trust plays in the Turangi community, and the variety of services you offer. And I think it's a key thing here around the fact that in 2021, we're all having to think about how we do things better, how we do things differently, how we work with others. So I think this is really acknowledgement of that. And so I guess I'm moving the resolution as it stands, Your Worship.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Kingi. It's been resolution's been moved. Councillor Westerman.
I too totally support this and happy to second it. Just knowing the issues trying to get into doctors when you've just got a minor health issue, I just think it's a great location. The service that that you do provide is absolutely awesome, and I know a lot of people benefit substantially from it. So well done. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Been seconded by Councillor Westman. Does anyone else want to speak in favour? Councillor Boddy.
I just want to raise a question with Mr. Davenport. When is this development contribution due to be paid?
So development contributions in this case, because it's a building consent, are payable at issue of CCC. So basically once they've completed the fit out.
So effectively, if this came before us on the 1st or 2nd of July 2021, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Would that be correct?
No, because development contributions are payable based on when the consent application is lodged. So whether it's a building consent application or a resource consent application. So it's really just that timing matter. If they had come to us after 1st of July and lodged the building consent at that stage, we wouldn't be in front of you. But because it's been time before, it's the assessment's done based on the Local Government Act at the time that they lodge that building consent.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, just a comment.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. Haven't seen you for a while in your other capacity, but thank you for that. Presentation. That's good. That's good. I could be more properly. I think I'm fully supportive as well. I think your Mother Jane was probably around the conversation years ago with when the Royal Lake District Health Board many years ago. So I'm absolutely fully supportive as well.
Thank you. All sounds good news. So obviously been moved and seconded. Any other councillors want to speak for the motion?
Right, I just want to add something. We have, what would you call it, a way of doing things at the present, which this is sort of left field. It's something that's come before us because of a timing issue. I would probably abstain from the vote because of that. And I'm just wondering whether there can be an exemption for making that payment because you've got your code of compliance. Are there any exceptions to the rule? Can that be done?
Not under the Local Government Act, because the DC assessment has to be done at the time the building consent application is lodged. So we have to implement our policy at that stage, which has triggered the DC assessment. But ultimately, it's a policy of council, so it's up to you whether or not you want to enforce that policy or whether you want to have discretion on that policy. So it's purely discretionary.
So there would be no way of that payment being made and then reversed?
I wouldn't think so. I think it would. No.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, and good to see you. And certainly appreciate the work that Tūwharetoa, the Trust, does, and acknowledge the people in the back row as supporters here today. So it's been moved and seconded, and all those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kia ora. Thank you very much.
Councillor Body, did you want your abstention noted? Or? Oh, you did vote it. Cool. Thanks very much. Right, item number 4.4. 4.4 is the extension of the contract to TDC Street Light Maintenance 2018 and to 2021. Mr. Dennis Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillors, have here before you the extension of the streetlight maintenance contract. It's a 3+1+1 contract, and we're seeking an extension of the first year of that contract. Horizons Network have been performing that contract up to all of our requirements, and we're recommending acceptance of this extension.
Thanks very much, Mr. Lewis. Any questions of Mr. Lewis? No. Councillor Westerman.
Just wondering, what are the cost savings for the changing of the lighting?
The cost savings are the energy component of the cost, but not the line charges. And there are some cost savings, and once you get all of the LED lights in, they have a longer life than your standard high pressure sodium lights.
I think through you, Mr. Chairman, we were
Councillor
told
Buddy.
back in the day it was about 90,000, was it per year or something?
I wouldn't be too sure of the amount, Councillor.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. No other questions? I have a mover, please. That continues on. Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thank you, Dennis. 4.5, Wastewater Treatment Plant Digester. Wow. Just had lunch, actually. 2, floating roof replacement. So it's floating digester.
Yes, so
Yep.
this paper is to replace the original roof that we have on Digester 1. Sorry, the original roof that we have on Digester 1, it's to replace that. That has been in service since 1972. We have improved the design a little bit to be similar to the Digester Roof 2, Digester Roof 1 that we replaced several years ago, and it's an improved design over what we had originally. we went to market to a direct engagement to 4 local fabricators. Only one of them responded, but they responded within our expectations for the benchmarking exercise that we did. The other 3 declined due to really being too busy. Materials is a concern from a pricing perspective, and Tahara, the energy, Contact Energy's Tahara site is about to be built within 6 or so months, and so this project to be done now dovetails nicely to occur before that big bottleneck comes into play in the local market. So we're asking essentially for the $529,000 funding to replace the roof. That's a fixed and final quote. However, we've asked for an additional $80,000 as a contingency in case we find when we take the roof off that there's some structural damage underneath, and we just don't know until we take the roof off. So I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Daniel. Questions? Councillor Park?
Thank you for that, Daniel. Just in what you just said before about the bottleneck of services being taken up by Contact Energy with the building of the new plant at Tauhara, do we have any other sorts of projects like this that are in the program of works which could be at risk?
Yes, but we're purposely putting in place some procurement strategies to mitigate that risk as much as we can, and in the coming council meetings you'll see some examples of that. Primarily we're looking at putting panels in place and preferred suppliers to try to nail down our local contracting market to commit to us as much as possible. However, there are a lot of external risks from New Zealand Inc. in general, with a lot of money being spent on infrastructure, which puts pressure on all organisations to an extent, and also locally the Contact Energy Tahara Power Station can't be underestimated. That will put a strain on as well. But we're locking things in as much as possible, and our focus is on delivering the long-term plan.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor?
Just a quick question around the 80,000 contingency. How confident are you that'll be sufficient? Because again, you've said we don't know what we don't know.
We do know what the underlying structure is, and that's an estimate to replace that underlying. So that's a full replacement of the underlying structure, if that's required.
So that would be a worst case scenario.
That's a worst case scenario.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions of Daniel? No? Very good. So replacing something from 1972, so it's probably not a bad effort.
Yeah, and we've said in the paper we can pretty much guarantee it'll be 20 years, but there's no reason to suggest it wouldn't last as long again.
Cool. All right, thank you, Daniel. Do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for your time.
4.6, Taupō sale yards. Requested change to the draft new lease. Ella. Good afternoon, Ella. And Dennis. Again.
So this agenda item seeks your consent as landowner to changes requested by the Taupō sale yards to its lease, draft lease documentation that's being negotiated. You'll recall this item came before you January last year, and since then we've received a request from the Taupō sale yards to extend its business use to cover existing activities on the land, and also permit the Taupō sale yards to grant a sublease to Spark for a telecommunications tower. Just like to table a new amended resolution. Since the agenda item was published, we received some further details on the existing activities on the land, so just like to table this amended resolution showing the amended text in red, that being extending the business use to also cover storage of farming equipment, truck storage, short-term conveying of livestock, and also tabling a map, which I'll come to shortly, that shows the areas those activities occur on, and also an additional resolution specifically consenting to the proposed sublease by Spark on terms that aren't inconsistent with the lease being granted. So I'll just go down to the map so we're clear. So this area outlined in red is the area that's subleased to the Taupō sale yards and that we're talking to them about a new lease on. This area in blue is the area occupied by the Taupō Western Riding Club. This area in green is the area subleased by the Taupō Pony Club from the sale yards. This area in red is a truck storage area. This area in orange is the area council subleases for a stock effluent dump and truck wash. And then the small blue area is the location where Spark wish to install the telecommunications tower, and then the remainder is all used by the sale yards for pens and yards and grazing areas. I've got Dennis beside me, given his familiarity with the land in terms of his involvement with Council's stock effluent dump station. So I'll hand it over to you, Council, if you've got any questions.
Thanks, Ella. Any questions of Ella or Dennis? Councillor Westerman?
Look, it's most probably a little bit simplistic, just dealing with leases. I can't understand if we're having to relook at this lease, why we aren't just the head lease and we sublet to the Spark and to the sale yards.
That is an option for council if it wishes to sublease directly to Spark. It could take out the blue square. I understand though there is some time pressures on Spark to do this installation. They've received some government funding to do the install, and they're not sure on the certainty of that funding if there was to be a delay, for example, in terms of it negotiating a direct lease with council. But that's certainly your decision as landowner. You could decide to enter into a direct relationship with Spark.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to cut their lunch or anything, because I can see it's most probably not a fundraising thing, and I've kind of worked out the annual rent at $6,473, 28% discount for the sublease back to the council. And, you know, to be fair, the biggest issue on this site is the effluent area, which I think, you know, we need to have better, well, not better control on, but, you know, why wouldn't we want to be the head leaser when it comes to that area? It just it seems double handling having a sublease back to council again, which would have meant that the net cost to the Taupo sale yards was about $4,500. Then they get the top up of the $8,000, and good on them. So they're sort of ahead of the 8 ball there, and I just sort of wondered whether they've negotiated a decent deal with Spark, because I've got prices from other Spark facilities and they're a little bit more than that.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd like to support and talk in support of Taupo sale yards. They're a very proactive group, and they realise their business is changing, so they've gone out and sought this particular leasee, and as is Midland Transport and the other sub-leasees, and they are very important to the rural community. This is a suggestion that's come from them. I wouldn't like to, if you know what I mean, that lots of farmers who are contributing hugely to our economy, they've come up with this idea. I'd like to support them. I totally understand where you're coming from, Councillor Westerman, but having been involved, you know, externally from this organisation, I know they're very passionate about this area, and they maintain it well. We've got the lease with the stock effluent. I'd like to support the farmers on you know, or the sale yards committee on this application. That's where I sit on it anyway. But notwithstanding Councillor Westman's comments, Councillor Leonard.
Yeah, just in support of what you're saying, David. I hear exactly what you're saying, Yvonne, exactly. But the number of sales that happen at the sale yards have diminished. Lots of towns have lost their sale yards, and it's not just a sale yards, it's a place that people come together and form community and all of those things, and this is just another wee way that might actually keep them afloat. So yes, I can see that we could make some money, but I just wonder whether the benefits to the community of allowing them the opportunity. So I'm definitely in favour.
Councillor Guy?
Yes, look, I support this. I think also it's worthy to note that, you know, it's not just a sale yards, as Councillor Leonard has said. It also contributes greatly to our wider community, and I just think about, you know, the ladies catering for the for hospice through the sale yards. So, you know, they are giving back to the greater community. So I would definitely support the status quo.
Councillor Park?
Just with an emergency management hat on, Your Worship, I would certainly support this, and I do know that the cell phone coverage out there can be dire at times, and so the sooner that our rural people have the same access to communications as us in urban areas do, the better.
Councillor Williamson?
Through the chair, certainly I respect Councillor Westerman's point of view, it's validated. However, I do support the views, your view and the other councillors, in supporting the sales yards, and I don't think it's really so much about the money, it's just really about the community, supporting the community out there.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Wilson?
Look, really just to wrap up, it was just more of a technical legal brief. I just felt that it was a lot clearer with us holding on to the head lease. I'm totally supportive of the Taupō sale yards and understand everything that they do out there, and it's a good community event where, yeah, we could just charge them no rent or whatever. But anyway, I take that on board in the comments.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Westerman. Any other comments? No? Okay, so the resolution...
Pass a comment as well, David. I heard that there was some government funding that came into this. To be fair, access to cell phone coverage and to the internet in rural areas prevents an awful lot of economy from happening. So should there be any other opportunity for us to be able to provide support for anything further around this area? There's a lot of people that just can't do business on their farms because of this, and I'm hoping that this will be a start to improve it. But it's only about 7 k's out of town, and there's just no coverage there, and it continues all the way out, and the same to the east of Taupo too. So if there's any other opportunity, I'd sincerely appreciate if we can provide support.
Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Councillor Mack?
I wasn't going to comment because it's a tower, but is it just for Spark?
Yes.
So down where Motuopa is, they've got a rural network tower that actually does all of the players. Why would it only be Spark?
Not sure, sorry, I'm not a technical expert.
I'm just thinking, if we're going to put a tower there, obviously if it's only for Spark users, that's cool, but obviously you've got Vodafone and 2 Degrees, and you may end up having 2 towers, or as I say with the rural network that have put a tower where we are, all 3 are in one tower.
I guess we could always receive a request for a subletting arrangement by Spark.
Nothing to
down
stop
the track.
someone else applying, I suppose. Okay. All right, I think that's been pretty well traversed. There's an amended resolution up there. I think we've covered everything there, Ella. Any final comments, Ella or Dennis? No? Okay, could I have a mover, please, for that? Moved by Councillor Leonard. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thank you. Item number 4.7, the funding of Kettle Drive, Napier Road, Aerosmith Avenue, safe intersection improvement. Mr. Bryson Huxley. Welcome, Bryson.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. So today I'm bringing an item for Kettle Drive, Napier Road intersection. At the moment we're pushing ahead with design, but we come up at a point where funding for this from NZTA or whakaaro is unknown at this stage, and therefore we're seeking that council take on a risk of fully funding this safe intersection treatment, even if whakaaro don't provide a 51% share of the funding. Essentially what's happening is We won't know if we gain funding from whakaaro until September this year. However, we could potentially start construction earlier than that. And therefore there is a gap between where we don't know if we've gained 51% share and the start of construction. So we can obviously apply for, gain the, if whakaaro do come back to us and say, yes, we've got the funding, we can claim on that, backdated to the 1st of July, but we don't know that until September. So this is just an item saying that Council would be happy to accept the risk of going ahead with this intersection treatment and construction of it before knowing that we've gained the 51% share from whakaaro.
Councillor Taylor. Thank you, Bryson. Sorry. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Bryson, the way I see it, there's a risk either way. If we say no, there's an ongoing safety risk, which I think we've all heard loud and clear over quite a long time. And the financial risk is, in my view, one we have very little choice but to accept. So I'm happy to move it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Guy first. Happy to second.
Yeah, I just agree. I think that this has gone on backwards and forwards, and I just think that we need to put a stake in the ground and say we are going to do this.
Councillor Mack. Thank you, Councillor Guy.
I agree. I think the only question I would have is that you're talking September is when we'd know about whether we get the funding. Is that right?
Yes.
So from now till September, though, the work that we do, will any of it be actual physical work, or will it be more designing and getting it done?
Potentially there could be physical work starting in August.
In August, not the 1st of September when we got the answer. Okay.
Councillor Boddy.
Just for once, I'll agree with Mr. Taylor, Councillor Taylor. If we delay it any longer, there will be a fatality. It's just when. My concern is the price we're talking about. I can't see how a circle in the middle of the road can end up at 1.9. Come up to Jarden Mile, that handles a hell of a lot of traffic. But I'm fully in favour of getting on with the job.
Thank you, Councillor Boddy. How confident are you, Bryson, to get this money? You might just
Reasonably
have to
confident.
What's that?
Reasonably confident.
Good man. We just wanted to get that on record here. All right. Thank you very much, Bryson. Councillor Williamson.
So through the chair, I think obviously we're fully committed to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Damned if you, damned if you don't. So I support the actual.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Yep. So it's been moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, Bryson. Item 4.8, adoption of a report on the dogs control policy and practices. Here we have Mr. Ross McDonald. Good afternoon, Ross.
Afternoon,
Been a while since you've seen you, but nice to see you again.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice to come with something not quite so, so maybe some good news for a change. So firstly, yeah, this just take the item as being read, but we're just here to ask for adoption of the Section 10A report as required by the Dog Control Act. Fairly good news, I think, across the board, considering we had a bout of COVID in there and a bit of a lockdown and all those other issues. Most of the figures are fairly consistent with what we've had, so touch wood, everything is going well. So.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you to your team too. You do a great job. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Westerman.
Just a comment, really. I love the report and the little doggies in there.
Thank you. No pressure for next time.
Unfortunately, most of the dogs the team deal with don't look like that.
If you blur your eyes and look from a distance, yeah, they're all cute.
Councillor Guy.
Yes, thank you. I noticed that we had 1,181 infringements, and I just wondered, how does that number of infringements be compared to other councils? Is that
okay? I
given,
knew that, that one would come up. So
7,367 dogs.
Yeah. So the infringements, it's obviously we have to report on the number of infringements that were actually issued. rather than doing a penalty over dog registration for those that don't pay, we do visits, we do phone calls, and that infringement is our last sort of enforcement action before we conduct the seizure if the dogs remain unregistered. But it's also the infringement that usually stirs some communication back to us, and we'll work with the owner to say, okay, well, you know, it happened, here's your infringement, you've paid your registration now, we can cancel that and move on. So you'll probably find that that figure in truth is probably back down around the 500 mark.
Okay, thanks.
Things, Jimmy, if you look at the financial for the 18-19 year, the infringements are 500.
Yeah.
So it's double.
So that basically explains that difference in figures. So that year we did things slightly differently, and then I think that one we used a penalty, which didn't have as good as an effect as getting some communication back from those dog owners than the infringements do. Yeah.
Councillor Williamson.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ross. Yeah, great report. Thank you. Just trying to stop picking on the registration checks, for example, 535. Are they recidivists, or are they, when you check them, do you get them to, what's the success of getting them to, are they just checking they are registered or they're not registered, or what's the percentage of?
Generally on those, a lot of those ones we find that are people that have moved on. So certainly from the rural community who can be quite transient and moving through for share milkers and the such of the like. A lot of those guys, it's probably the last thing they remember to do before they move on is ring the council and tell them the dogs are gone with them. So generally a lot of those we find that it's just people that have moved on. The ones, those visits are quite handy. It does, I mean, you could probably, if we didn't do those visits, you'd probably add on another 200 to those infringements. So it's a good time to catch up with dog owners and have face-to-face and some good robust discussion about dog registration. Yeah.
Councillor Mack.
Just out of interest, obviously with your attacks, barking and lost and found, obviously your figures, do you then drill down from that, like 324 barking dogs? Do you have, like, from that point, like the same dog, say 10 times or whatever? Do you keep records like that, or? And the reason I'm saying that is obviously for time and you guys. If you have a dog that barks 10 times, say, is there the next stage to that, or do you just keep infringing?
Yeah. So generally, well, with barking dogs, generally we don't infringe. With the barking dogs, it's generally a matter of working with people. So although there are a lot of complaints in there, you probably, as you said, a lot of those will be for the same dog, from the same people. It might be 3 or 4 visits before people get the message, but it won't result in infringements. It usually results in us either moving the dog location kennel to another part of the property when working with the owner and just providing some advice. A lot of them, I would say probably the majority of them, are the dogs barking when people are not home, and people don't realise their dog still wants to be entertained when it's sitting outside while they're at work. So a lot of it is just educating those people. But yeah, if we drilled it right down, I think you'd probably find that figure is probably more like half that, because it's the same dog that we're going to.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Richard. And Ross, thank you and your team for the work you've done in the past year.
Thank you.
Sit on the dog control committee with Councillor Boddy and Councillor Leonard, and it's only the high-end stuff that we get, and by the time it gets to us, the work that you have done is outstanding. And I know, look at the numbers here, and that they're high numbers, but clearly most of the stuff is resolved at the officer level and dealing face-to-face with dog owners. So thank you for that, and well done. I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Leonard. Recommendation up there, adopt the report. Thank you, Ross, for your, and pass on our thanks to your team.
Will do.
All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, 4.9, adoption of the Reserves Bylaw Act, Bylaw 2021. Timmy. Good afternoon, Timmy.
Worship. We'll take the report as read. It's the return, like I promised at the last council meeting, that we will be hoping to adopt the Reserves Bylaw at this time around. We've got a ministerial assent and we're happy to go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Tim. Any questions of Timmy? No, straightforward. Okay, could I have a mover 1 and 2 up there, please? Thank you, Councillor Westerman, seconded by Councillor Boddy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thanks, Tammy. Nice and easy. Right, 4.10, Lgfa standby facility agreement. Mr. Neil Ward. Good afternoon, Neil.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. Nice little one-pager here for you. Hopefully it's pretty simple. I like to keep things short and brief. We are refinancing a $10 million credit line facility from Westpac to Lgfa. This is going to save us money. Resolution's in front of you. Your turn. Come on, you love saving money.
So we're moving it to our own bank, is what you're saying?
To the local government funding agency, which is the commonly known as the Bond Bank, which is owned by all the councils in New Zealand and 20% by government. So yes.
Every council in New Zealand, is it?
Yeah. Haven't got the exact numbers in front of me, so there's a mixture of shareholders and borrowers. But yeah, by and large, the majority of councils in New Zealand are shareholders.
Okay, very good. Will we still get a calendar from Westpac?
we still the Westpac are still actually I should actually just note that Westpac are still a valuable business partner with us.
Yes.
We do our carbon trading, well not trading, we buy our carbon credits and that through them, and they provide very good advice there. They are also participants in our CP program, so they buy our commercial paper. So yes, they are a valued banking partner still.
Thank you. That's in the roundabout way what it's meaning. We still use them quite considerably.
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Cool. All right. Any questions of Neil regarding this? No. Pretty straightforward. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Rankin. Seconded by Councillor Mack. 1 and 2 there. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against. Carried. Thanks very much, Neil.
I'll hang around for this one.
Right.
As well.
4.11. The Council's April performance report, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to outdo Neil and say I'm not even going to mention anything on today's report because it's all there. We've talked about it in the past and you've actually been involved in it all with the long-term plan and other elements. So I'll just hand over to Neil to walk us through the report.
Thanks, Neil. Financials.
Cool. Thank you, Gareth. So I'll just do the headline stuff and then hand over to the team. So on the first page of the financials there, I'm actually working off a different bit of information here, but hopefully it kind of lines up. It's not different, mine's just manual. Accountants love paper still. So the first page there, as you'll see, is in the tiles is the highlights, predominantly all green lights there. So looking good in terms of across your revenue streams, and just one orange, or a couple of orange lights there on the personnel costs and other expenses. That's page 1. We'll move through. I'll go through that in more detail on page 3. On the second page there, we have our borrowings and capital expenditure. You'll see there in terms of the borrowings as at 30 April, 173 million. As at today, that's actually 153 million because our $20 million pre-funding has rolled off. But we're forecasting that to be 163 million at the end of the year. We'll be doing a 10 million drawdown between now and 30 June. And yeah, that's pretty well what I'd probably like to highlight on there. We've spent $35 million worth of capital expenditure so far this year as well. So the team are going great. Next page, statement of comprehensive revenue and expenditure. Probably the key things I'll just walk you through there. Similar to previous meetings, rates is fine, it's on track, slightly ahead there. Subsidies and grants, 12 million ahead. Again, as it is shown in the explanations box on the right hand side, most of that is from the CIP funding, 10.9 million, transport subsidies, 1 million. There's also, we may not have talked about this one before, but we've received 143,000 as part of the Apprenticeship Boost program. Scott in the background there has organised that for us. And CIP funding in an OPEX sense of 413 in there as well. Go down to fees and charges, development contributions, we're ahead there as well. 3.3 million on 2.5. Fees and charges going very strong there, as we've previously talked about. That's predominantly made up of resource consent income, 198,000 a head, building consent revenue, 659 a head, solid waste, again linked to the strong economy, 520,000 a head. Other revenue, I'll just bring your attention to that one as well. So that's vested assets, 700,000, and 100,000 donation there makes up the majority of that. Going through into operating expenditure, we're a little bit overspent, if you like, on personnel costs, 400. Going through to other expenses, we're 400 ahead of year-to-date position there, but that has been that which relates to the CIP OPEX related expenditure, which is offset by the additional grant of 400,000 in there. So overall, we're looking to land this financial year in a strong position. We are forecasting a surplus there. So considering, you know, where we started with this annual plan, which is, as you all know, pretty tough space. We're going to land this thing very well. Yeah. So that's my high level. I might, while I'm at the table, if you don't mind, that way I can go back to the back of the room and snooze. I'll jump straight to investments and the Treasury Report. So under the investments one, I'll just quickly cover that. That's all looking good, and what you're seeing in there is in both the finance revenue and finance costs is the impact of the $100,000 gain that we've made on the pre-funding. So we've got a little bit of extra finance revenue coming through from the 20 million deposit and the 20 million drawdown on debt, a little bit more there, but the net gain of that's 100 grand, so that was a nice little deal, and I'll look forward to that bonus. Thanks, Gareth. We'll now jump to the Treasury Report, if you indulge me. Probably the first thing there is yesterday we received our annual confirmation from Standard & Poor's of our credit rating. It remains AA plus stable outlook, and the financial metrics on that continue to improve. So we're pretty proud of that. That's that one. Summary page of the report there. You'll see all the nice green ticks, only one red cross. It's unfortunately can't do anything about that red cross, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Go to page 2, it's your general funds, 65 million in general funds, and you'll see in the left hand side of that page is where our pesky little cross is. That's as a result of obviously the OCR and the interest rate being lower than what we forecast. So unfortunately we are behind in our earnings on the general funds portfolio, but that's directly as a rate of the reduction in the interest rates. The next page is our borrowings. As I said there, as at 30 April 173, but as at today it's 153. Everything else we are in line with there. Everything else is looking fine, nothing else to report on that page. TL portfolio, 63 million, again on a cash basis, we're ahead of budget, and total return basis quite well ahead of budget actually. And the final page, counterparty credit exposure, so that's all your risk stuff. Every nice green tick there, so that's all looking good. So that's
very good.
all I've got.
Neil, any questions? Any questions of Neil? Councillor Body?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and it's only because of a comment you made in regards to local government finance of that 40 million BNZ. Is that what I picked up?
I'm sorry, I'm not. Can you? I haven't quite got your question.
Well,
sorry, Councillor.
40 million BNZ, 4-year evergreen.
Oh, okay. So yes, sorry, I probably went a bit quick there. We have a $50 million commercial paper program. So what that means is that we issue debt onto the market, short-term debt, 90-day rolling debt. Sorry, 90-day debt, to the corporate investor market. So we have a 50 million facility. We haven't got that fully issued into the market. I think we're 38 million at the moment. So what we do is sitting behind that as liquidity or liquidity cover is a $40 million evergreen, 4-year evergreen facility with the BNZ. and then within a 10 million facility currently with Westpac, but switching that out to Lgfa. And the reason you have that is that if you get market dislocation like we had in the GFC, so suddenly the banks stop interbank lending, nobody gives you any money, right? So if you go to the market, but by having these facilities sitting there in the background, I can just pick up the phone and say, give me $50 million, please, Mr. Banker, and they have to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Neil. And no more questions? Okay. Democracy and planning. Nick. Good afternoon, Nick.
Just a couple of highlights. I know a number of you were involved in the pedestrian mall proposal. Some of you weren't. There was a very successful hearing and deliberations process in the middle part of May. So decision was made, obviously, to confirm those pedestrian malls, and we've communicated that out to the submitters. So the appeal period's underway. That will finish on the 21st of June, and we'll update you on that as we progress. Dates have been set for the Ngakahau plan change, so that's in August. That's similar to the Whairoa proposal. That's going to be a hearing under the joint management agreement that we have with Tū Whātua Māori Trust Board. Initial engagements begun on kaupapa kaitiaki. So that's the catchment document that I talked to you last month about, that we're developing with WRC and Te Kotahitanga. Those initial engagements have gone very well, so they'll continue over about the next month. And next week, we're very excited to be heading down with the team to Turangi. We've got an ongoing conversation about residential development down there. So you might remember, as part of the last workshop on the district plan, we talked about some of the residential growth that we're looking at in the Taupo context. And we certainly started to talk about some of those challenges in the Turangi and the Mangakino context. So we're just carrying on those conversations, and I expect we'll be heading your way in the not too distant future as well, Kirsty. Last thing I just want to note was we've started some initial discussions with the trustees for Rangatira E. So it's the large farm between Ngakahau and Acacia Bay. They've got some aspirations for the future, and we've just started those discussions about what they might be and how we as a council can help facilitate those. So as those progress, we'll stay in touch with you and let you know.
Well, so it's similar to previous, or similar to previous applications or aspirations, or well, probably can't go into them here.
I'm really conscious that there's some commercial sensitivity around that. But as that evolves, we'll certainly get back in front of you and give you a more detailed update.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Boddy.
Just ask, North Acacia Bay or South Acacia Bay? You see Acacia Bay Road.
Oh,
Is it
sorry.
the northern block or
So
the
it's
southern
on the landward side of Acacia Bay Road, as opposed to Painatiaka, which is on the lake side.
But which area of Acacia Bay Road? Is it the northern area where it goes to Pohopi Road, or is it the southern area that goes from Jarden Mile through to Acacia Bay?
It's the southern area, so between Ngakahau and Acacia Bay.
The whole lot.
Yes.
That whole straight. That whole straight on the right hand side. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they were going east. They were going west. Yeah. Going west, and Councillor Mack.
I can speak that, Your Worship. It was just the language was confusing. It was an issue I raised, but the resolution is the same. It is what it is, but it was just by way of explanation, because when you say it's a pedestrian mall, people automatically, their thinking defaults to, I'm going to go to all these shops, and it's actually, no, we're just putting a footpath where a road was. That's all.
Yeah. So we didn't technically change the name at all. No. Technical term.
Local Government Act 74.
The planner's term, isn't it? Legislative term.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. With Rangatira, obviously, some of us recall having conversations a few years ago with in the old chamber regarding the actual when you potentially develop it, where they're going through the consenting process, didn't we, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we, hasn't that been rezoned back to rural?
It is rural.
It was,
And it has always been rural.
okay. So
Yeah,
that's-
at one stage, we identified there was some future development opportunities there in the district plan.
there were the red blobs.
Yes, red blobs caused all sorts of issues.
All right, we'll leave that one at there. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Right, Community Services,
Yeah.
Mr. John Ridd.
I was hoping that Scott would be here for, I think you gave him some public recognition, but Scott Davenport's not here at the moment. Can't see him, so I'll...
The other Scott's here.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'll be able to talk about dogs. So you had that excellent report that Ross presented earlier on the dogs there, so I probably won't go into there, but I guess, again, I would reinforce the volume of activity in our consenting area is significant, and you can see the numbers there are huge. The conversation I've been having is we're not seeing an end to that, and that will continue for some time yet. So we just have to make sure we're geared up to make sure that we keep from our end, keeping the economy ticking along like we do. The IANS audit, which we've referred to on several occasions, we're sort of coming to the end of being able to respond to most of that. And I'm really proud of where the team's got to in terms of doing that. The main focus, as I talked about earlier, was around that competency assessment, which we put some things in place to make sure that we can cover off that going forward. So, in summary, lots of activity, don't see an end to it. The team are doing really well under pressure, but we're here to support the economy, and that's what this area is about.
Thank you, John. Any questions of John? Community Facilities. Kevin. The private pool's open yet?
Yeah, afternoon all. And so, yeah, there's just a few comments on these, and the private pools are not quite open yet. The builders or the installers are still up there, but we're planning to have them up and running. I think Scott just mentioned to me in the best part of a week or two. Absolutely. So that's to do with software, to do with other stuff, and they've got all the programs and procedures in place.
I'll find out. No, that's right.
No, so that's really all I've got for the community facilities. Unless there's anything else, I'd, happy to go through activity by activity. And if I can't answer any questions, Dennis or Scott can help us out. So,
thanks, Kevin. Any questions of Kevin? No, I think we're all good. What are we going to? I might as well stay there, I suppose. Water.
yeah, so the next one's water, and I think all of the performance measures there around the treatment plants and the compliance there and the reasons why the red are well traversed. We understand those. We've got quite a detailed program into dealing with all of those. But as we go through to the projects, again, all of those ones have been the long-term projects, all working our way through those and actually delivering on the times that are actually in the narrated in there. But what it is they are red because they were over what we had originally put when we dreamed this up 3 years ago when we were putting the LTP together then. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Park?
Excuse my ignorance on this, Kevin. Under the explanation of variance to budget, under development contributions, it says large DOA at Whariwaka East. I just wondered what DOA was. Cause
Dennis can answer that. So it's an agreement. Yeah.
Oh, Dennis, right? Just an agreement?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Next one, transport.
Transport, yep.
Where
are we?
Transport, yeah.
Yes. So water's finished, no question on water?
No. Again, on transport, again, the team are working, on all of these activities, the team are working really hard to deliver what's in the LTP, getting ready for next year's annual plan, what's in the new LTP, and also each of these teams are majority and are delivering also on the government money that we've got, which we'll report on a little bit later. So.
Very good. Wastewater?
So wastewater, the only one I really want to mention here is the Kinloch. We're on target to finish November, which is the wastewater treatment plant there, which is a large project, $8-9 million worth in that space, and very important that we finish on time for compliance reasons, particularly when we get the influx of people coming over the Christmas period.
Excellent. Solid. Wastewater solid. Solid waste, I presume, is next. Yep.
Yeah,
Solid
so
waste.
solid waste, I'll take that as read, and it's the usual stuff there. So, and stormwater's the same.
Stormwater. Same.
Yep.
Stormwater, John, Councillor Body.
Just coming back to this Brentwood Gully, that's been there for months and months and months. Where exactly are we with that?
Yeah, so that's a difficult one. It's more around discussing with the developer and also the landowners in that area, and so it's really a relationship thing. We're working our way through that and looking at all different permutations. It is a slow burn, though, absolutely.
There's no end date written anywhere it has to be concluded by.
No, it's just as soon as we can work our way through it. Yeah.
Actually, sorry, Kevin, just back to water. Bonshore water, does that still show up, or was that sorted?
It's sorted for now. We do have a program in future years to actually look at bringing the water from town, putting it up to there, because we have trouble with those bores intermittently, with all sorts of geothermal and other problems up there. So it's working fine now, dealing with what we want to do.
Yeah.
But long-term sustainability, we're not 100% sure on that, so we're doing some further work. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. You got that piece of paper I slipped to you the other day about Bonshore water?
I'll have a look through my emails. Thank you.
Sorry, I just made me think, which is unusual, I know. Right, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate that.
If I can just skip over the economic development one, save me coming back.
Yes.
There's the reports there from the government money. The first part of that, so this is on page of your agenda, 150. Starting at 150. So it's the 3 water reform money. So that's the 9 projects that we've got up and running. And the team are doing exceptionally well in that space, and actually well through. So it's well over 50% through. In fact, DIA have come through and done a case study on our 9 projects and how we're delivering them. So when we do get a copy of their final product, we'll flick that through to you. But they are, they're really happy, and I'm happy with the team and the way that we've moved the way through that.
Yep. Well done.
And the other 2 parts is around the TTCT. I think everyone's up to date with that, particularly around the pedestrian moors and the next stages we're going through. And the last one is, or the last one of the 2s is the Turangi revitalisation, tied up with the ETA and Marpet Road as well. Most of that work is going along reasonably well. I was down in Turangi yesterday and had a good look at those the street that's been done, and I think the elected members here who are from Turangi, it's made quite a market change, absolutely, in that space. And the last one is the airport on that report, and Gareth can talk to that if he needs to add anything. So,
Okay, thank you. Any update on the airport, Karen? No, not yet. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you, Mr. CEO, and everyone. That is great. No final questions? Okay, we have a mover. That mover report, accept the CEO's report, moved by Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. 4.12. Council engagements. Shaney, any nothing to add? No? Nothing to adjust? All good? Sorry, Councillor Leonard.
Just in relation to the Lake Taupō Protection Joint Committee, we are trying to adjust that date with WRC and the other joint committee members, just to allow the trust as much time as we can, hoping to briefly meet next Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. so that we can get that officially through to the Injust Fire Zone. So that date is likely to change.
As you quite, I just have to make my apologies as well. I couldn't make that day anyway. So.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. It's not confirmed, but it's just a work in progress.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Councillor Leonard. No other adjustments. Okay. Over mover. They accept. Thank you, Councillor Westerman. Seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Members reports. 4.13. Councillor Body. Nothing. Councillor Guy. Yeah. Cool. Councillor Kingy. Councillor Leonard.
Just a reminder, next Monday's Gypsy Day, so you may find the roads a little bit slow. Please be patient.
Monday. Okay. Councillor Mack, do you know what Gypsy Day is? Nothing, just a quick. No. Gypsy Day every day at my place. Right, Councillor Rankin? Nothing. Councillor West? Councillor Truman? Councillor Taylor?
Just one quick point regarding the Regional Transport Committee. We finished the deliberations on the Regional Transport Plan that's been put up to the full Waikato Regional Council, including all the submissions from Taupō locals, like Taupō District. They were all heard and acknowledged, so I guess a vote of thanks to those who took the time and effort to have their say. Their voices were heard. So we'll just wait for that to be ratified by the full council.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Williamson? Yep, cool. All right, thank you. Do we have to move it? Yeah, move Councillor Guy, seconded by Councillor Mac. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried.